Am I audible? Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good evening.
Hello everyone. I'm Shrishti Yadav. I'm today's host. So, what is a writer? A writer is blessed with an influential yet responsible power. The power of shaping beliefs, civilization, political systems, and pushing people to rethink and alter their actions. These mere words might hold power to move people, inspire us, and connect us on the basic levels of desire and emotion. I am a writer. With that maxim, I love to introduce Ms. Jyoti Jha, our next speaker. She is a former HR professional, a storyteller, a columnist, and a globetrotter. She is also an esteemed winner of the Times of India Write India Season 3. She has been a panelist and a guest speaker in institutions like IIM Lucknow and IITs. She has also been an honorable judge at Kashi Yatra IIT BHU, a jury member at a literary club IIT BHU for storyteller, and a guest speaker at highly prestigious Ahmedabad International Literature Festival and Kalinga Literary Festival. Bestowed Savitribai Phule Rashtriya Samman and Global Prestigious Award 2022, she has been nominated for the prestigious Authors Award 2022, Season 3, The Times of India for the Choice of Popular Choice category, and you are also the president of Savitribai Seva Foundation, Pune. That's very great achievements, ma'am. And now let's gather information on being a writer from you.
Thank you so much. Very warm evening to good evening to everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank TEDx Shivaji College for this wonderful platform and this opportunity. Thank you, our dear host, for that generous introduction. So today in this segment, as mentioned, I am a writer. I would be sharing my experience, my insight, my understanding, and my perception of being a writer, the elements of writing, and journey of a writer. But before I do that, I'd like to briefly mention an incident from where it all began for me. Have I always been a writer? So, with this incident, I'll be sharing. I would like to say that. So, I believe that it is the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. I strongly believe that. And a few years back, while I was residing in UK with my family, my son, who was 10 years old at that time, he came up to me suddenly one day and he said, "Mom, I want to be like you." Well, all the mothers would gloat in the pride of that if the child idolizes them and wants to be like them. And I had also begun to gloat in that pride when he added, "You get to stay at home, you have all the time in the world for yourself, you can relax all day." And my meager ego was deflated then and there. Is it so? Ask any stay at home parent, ask all mothers, and they'll definitely and vehemently disagree to this. It is around the clock set of responsibilities and activities that we do, and majorly all of it goes unnoticed. I tried to explain to my son, and he was partially convinced. But I wasn't convinced. It got me thinking because I have been a kind of a person for whom being independent, being self reliant, and having my own identity has always been significant. And for me, that had always been through having a career. I have had a career of being in the corporates. I have worked with some eminent corporates, and I was in the field of HR. As mentioned, I was an HR professional, and I had thoroughly enjoyed my career, and I was thriving in that. And when I decided to just drop it all and then cross the continents to join my family and move to USA and UK and spend decades there, exploring places, being a globetrotter, being with my family, being a full-time mother, stay-at-home parent, a homemaker. And I enjoy doing all that. But of course, there was always a nagging feeling that there is something missing. And today, it just triggered that. So I began my quest of rediscovering myself all over again, to begin my career again. And then my hunt for second inning began. I remember in my recent article in Business Outreach that I have written about rediscovering career. There is a segment where I have mentioned about women who have been on a long career break, what it is like to come back to join their job, and how the journey is. So most of it happened for me because I think for a woman who has been in a long career break has created a comfortable zone around her. She's set in that. There are set expectations from her near and dear ones, and to break those shackles and come out of it, come out of that shell, and then be out there in the market. So it's quite a struggle. It's daunting. And but I set on that path. And meanwhile, we had moved back to our country, home country, India, and begins living here all over again. And in that process of me trying to find my career, my husband once saw an ad in the newspaper about Right India Season 3 by Times of India. There was a prompt by author Upamanyu Chatterjee. I looked at it, and instantly I had a connection and I wanted to jot down a story. I wrote a story, I submitted it and forgot all about it. And then after a couple of months later, I had a call from Right India team saying I was one of the winners. And of course, I was excited, and we were asked to go online on Twitter where the results were announced. And the results were being announced in the reverse chronological order. And I was eagerly waiting for my name to pop up, which wasn't happening. And then when it was the winner number 2, I just gave up. I thought maybe I had a crank call. And then there it was, winner number 1. And when I saw my name, I just sat there dumbfounded, stunned, in disbelief. And my family was around me, congratulating me, hugging me, and then with all excitement. And in that stellar moment, everything changed for me. And since then, it has been never looking back. I discovered the storyteller in me. But did that happen overnight? I don't think so. Because I go back to my childhood where I had a literature ingrained upbringing, where I was introduced to vast literature in both Hindi and English at home or in school. And that had built me up and my interest in literature, reading, and writing. But I was not able to place because I come from a time where there were set career goals and you are allowed to, or you are trained to just follow those. Writing is nowhere, it's just books out there you read, and you don't think of writing one. And that was briefly rekindled when I was in UK. I used to love spending hours together in the libraries there and going through all the books, all the genres, and exploring all the kinds of authors and their works. And it all culminated, and with this Right India giving me a boost of confidence, I just started writing all over again. And I started writing blogs, articles, reviews, movies, and books, and articles, and as I mentioned. So things just kept happening. And my very first book that came out was a travelogue that was Around the World Through My Lens. And that was written at a time of the COVID when the world was shut down. So since I had the opportunity of visiting so many places across globe, so I thought to create a memory for myself and the readers that the world is still beautiful out there with lovely places, and the writers in us should be motivated. So that was my thought behind writing my first book. And then I started writing many short stories. And meanwhile, I was working parallelly on a Hindi novel, which was Story of a Girl. And that synced with my belief in life that women empowerment comes through education and self-reliance. So with that thought and with that sync, I created that story in that book, and which had been widely appreciated and by the media houses and also readers. So, and my latest book is a short story collection Heart Sanctuary and Other Stories. It is a collection of 13 stories about sentiments and emotions. I know emotions are never a central theme in a story, as far as I understand, but for me, that was important. I had to have a sentiment uh, dominant in a particular situation, in a particular story. And of course, there are tons of sentiments going on at a particular time, given moment. But for me, there was one significant sentiment in each story. And that's how I created that book with that theme. And recently it was reviewed by the Times of India, and there were some good words about it. So, where I have tried to explore the complexities of human sentiments through simplistic everyday living. So, that's my book, Heart Sanctuary and Other Stories. And while writing, I understood so many things about writing because I had only become a writer suddenly in my life. Although it had always been there, things had added up. But when you start writing, there are so many things you learn, so many things you unlearn, so many things you relearn. You discover, you grow with each writing. Every piece that you create, you grow, you evolve as a writer. And writing a story naturally is one thing, and being able to understand the technicalities and the theory behind it is another. So I try to do that because with that, is it important? Yes, of course it is important, because once you understand your own work, you are able to self assess it more, you are able to improve it more, and you are also able to explain to the world what you have written. You can understand what you have written, and of course you grow. So what are the technicalities I understood about a story is the plot is important, the elements of story writing, the characters, the protagonist, the antagonist, creating a conflict. You should have an interesting ending to it. If you want to leave it a cliffhanger so that you want to create a sequel to it, so all those things are important. Creating resolution for your conflict and your story and the plot that you have created, the setting. So all those elements are very important in story writing. And but writing a story in the confinement of your own space, comfortable zone is one thing. Being in your own world, that encapsulated world of imagination, and you have your own perception about the writing and publishing world. So once you have that manuscript ready in your hand, there is the complex task of getting it published. So there are two stages to it that I have discovered, what I have understood so far. The first thing is you create a manuscript, and then you read it, beta, you give it for beta reading, then there is editing, there is a writing, rewriting, reading, re-editing, there is proofreading, and there is a final manuscript in your hand. So after all these tasks, and there is still a mammoth task which we understand after being a writer and this writing process, what we understand now is that manuscript is your dream. Now you have to transform it in the form of a book which has to reach the hands of the readers. And that is a gigantic task. It is full of challenges. It is interesting, but it is confusing. There are so many paths, there are so many platforms, there are so many options out there. So you just have to keep exploring those. And what I learned is before you go about publishing your work, there are certain things you need to be clear about in your head. You have to understand what are your author goals, what do you want out of your writing, why you are writing, and what are the milestones you want to achieve as a writer. Because writing for passion is one thing, and making a career out of it is another. So for me, since it was a second inning and I had chosen it as a career, although it was still an unconventional one, so but it became full time for me. So I started on that path, and then I understood there are other people who are writing full time, and of course there are many who are doing it just partially in their spare time. They write, and they are doing other things in life. So it has been a process of self-discovery, ever learning, constantly evolving, and consistently changing goals and milestones for me. So that is all writing journey that I have understood so far. And there's so much more to learn and understand. So, and there's another thing I would like to add is writing is a lonely process. That process of writing makes you feel very, very lonely. But when you go about publishing it, you want your work to come to the market, you want your work to be read by the readers. So that entire process, you cannot do it alone. You need to have a team of people around you. There has to be industry experts, there has to be the support of the literary fraternity out there, your community writers who are there to guide you, inspire you. There's so much of literature, literary work, and pieces out there to inspire you, motivate you as a writer. And of course, there is a family and friends who are going to support you. And you have to find the you have to identify the unique ways in which they support you, just as they understand and they survive the complexities and the craziness around being a writer, because being a writer is a crazy thing, and also you create craziness around you. So since your near and dear ones face that, I think you also have to uh, have support from them in their own ways. So that's how it has worked for me, and with by the grace of God. And I have also associated with a literary agency that has helped me a lot, because I think that is important when you want your book to be published. It's always better that an industry expert guides you throughout the process, because it makes things easier, especially for new writers who are still discovering the process, the entire journey. So it has worked well for me, and I would advise that it's definitely beneficial. So that's how it has been for me. And I have been an HR professional, I have been a homemaker, I have been a globetrotter. I have relished every role that I have played, but there was always something missing. And now that I have become a writer, I think it's greatly fulfilling. I feel contented. There's nothing missing. There's a completeness, a sense of fulfillment, and I largely believe that reading is enriching and writing is liberating. So writing has made me liberated. So that's how writing has been for me, and I'm proud to call myself a writer today. And also, I would like to share that, as I mentioned, that writing for passion is different, and creating a career out of it is a completely different process. So choose wisely whatever path you choose. Go about it. You should have consistency, dedication, discipline, and passion all along. So there are going to be moments of frustration, demotivation, but you have to just keep going, because there is so much of inspiration out there. And also, I believe that whatever meager contribution we make to the literary world in the literature, I believe it is all going to be a modern source of history. So we should choose wisely what we create, what we are going to leave behind. So I strongly follow that, and I would advise everyone to follow that as well. And today, after my literary contributions, whatever I have made in this short span of time, there are three books in English, there's one in Hindi, and I have written columns for about 1.5 years now. And I have written Hindi articles, I have contributed to editorials in Hindi in some of the media houses. Having written all these blogs, articles, and everything, reviews, I feel there is still so much more to do, so much more to contribute, so much more to learn, and so much more to leave behind. So I work every day, I write every day, I try to read every day, and I would advise everyone, read a lot, write a lot. So that's one important aspect of being a writer. So, and that's all I would have to say about being I'm a writer. And I would like to close with a parting note. It's never too late. You must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was very insightful.
Thank you.
Do you like to share anything about your book or anything?
Yes, my books are available on Amazon and Flipkart, and my books Anandi, as quoted by one of the prominent media houses of the country, an illustrative symbol of women empowerment. So definitely, I would want readers to read that book. And my book, Heart Sanctuary and Other Stories, as I said, it has been recently reviewed and been appreciated by the readers. So go and read all the stories, try to find connection with the emotions that I have tried to portray through the characters from our everyday living, and I'm sure readers will relate to them because there are protagonists from all walks of life, from different places, different setting, uh, be it the foreign land, be it the roots of our village. So it's a range of emotions, it's a range of characters and settings. So go and read all those books and see if you can connect with the characters. And also the travelogue around the world through my lens. Go and pick it up, read the book, and inspire the explorer in you, inspire the traveler in you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Okay.